Okay, perfect. All right, great. Well, I really appreciate the introduction. I want to just share a little bit more about me as well on a personal level since we haven't had a chance to meet yet. I was born and raised here in the Seattle area, and I am married to my high school sweetheart, Chris, there. We also have a 13-year-old German short hair pointer who you can see there at beautiful Rattlesnake Lake. I enjoy reading. So I heard you mention the book club. That sounds like a blast. I enjoy board games and card games, geocaching, traveling, and gluten-free bakeries. And most relevant to you all tonight, just like Carol shared, I'm a certified professional coach, and I have a passion for supporting professionals and organizations in practicing authentic leadership, human leadership, and creating balanced, healthy professional lives. I specifically work with new and emerging leaders, meaning people who are new to management or working on developing toward management and leadership. And just like Carol shared, before my work as a coach, I worked in medium-sized companies in HR. And I did see a lot of amazing, amazing leaders. And I also saw some management decisions and actions that left a lot to be desired. My HR experience means that I bring expertise in people management, leadership, adult development, and navigating workplaces to my practice. And that all being said, I also bring my own personal experience of going through work, balancing work and life. And in my own journey, I struggled for years with an overwhelming inbox, never ending projects, working on the weekends. And part of that is that I saw my role in HR as caring for people. I felt responsible for the lives of our employees in so many ways. But because of that deep commitment, I didn't feel like I was doing enough at work. I felt like I had to continually be doing more. And so as I worked more because of that, so much so that my personal relationships and my enjoyment of life suffered, and my identity essentially became my work. It all came to a head a few years ago. I was part of a team of 5, and we were tasked with building the HR function in our company. And there was a lot of resistance amongst the senior leaders. They were owners of the company and they'd been doing things their way for a long time, and they wanted to keep doing that. A few of them took to openly disrespecting some of my team members in meetings, undermining the efforts of the team, and it caused a lot of distress for us, especially the team members who were directly involved. And because I was a sounding board for them, I heard all of their struggles. I heard the awful stories of what they were experiencing. And bottom line, after months of this, 3 out of 4 of my colleagues resigned within 1 week of each other because they just couldn't take it anymore. And I was heartbroken to lose those colleagues. I loved them. I trusted them. I enjoyed working with them. On top of that, I also saw the immense workload and demand that was about to drop on me and my one remaining colleague. I was terrified at the prospect of becoming the target of all of that contention from the owners. But thankfully, the CEO heard the feedback from the departing employees, and he saw the dynamic at play. And he hired a coach to support me as I stepped into the proverbial fire. And I can honestly say that working with that coach was life-changing for me. In our work together, I was able to let go of the pressure that I was putting on myself. I was able to build my confidence interacting with those difficult leaders. I kept my remaining team member on board and invested. And we actually started to make progress, even though there were two of us left with the goals that we had, while building trust within the organization. And on top of that, even with all of the success I was finally feeling at work, I was finding more time for my personal relationships and enjoyment of life outside of work again. So that story I share because between that experience and so many others, I know how much work stress can spill into other areas of life. And I also know how liberating and empowering it feels to reestablish boundaries and live a full life on your terms. So as we continue our conversation today, I'll be sharing some of the information and tools that I found to be so incredibly meaningful and impactful during that time. By the end of our conversation, my goal is to help you understand what energy has to do with stress and engagement. You'll have a framework for thinking about stress and how you can identify things to help you experience less stress and increased engagement. You'll have the opportunity to start an exercise that was pivotal in my experience of shifting out of constant stress, worry, and fear. And we'll also look at mastery mindset, which is really key to success in all of this. Before I dive in, I do want to acknowledge it's Thursday night. Hopefully you've been able to get some dinner. We've all already had a full day under our belts. So it's my goal to offer some opportunity for engagement and really make this interesting, make it personal so that you can integrate some of these concepts a bit more deeply into your life. So I will be inviting and encouraging participation. Actually, right off the bat here, feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to make comments and Carol can read those off for us. What does the word energy make you think of?
Power I have.
Power.
Passion.
What was that?
Passion.
Passion.
Be positive to do more stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Those are great answers. I love that. I love the range of what you guys have all shared. I'm going to share some images here and allow just a minute for you to take them in. Okay. What did you notice in those images?
They're both positive energy and negative energy.
Mm-hmm. How did they leave you feeling is another question, if that's another or an easier question to answer.
It has all types of emotions.
Absolutely, a full range, you're right. I think as I look at them, some of them make my heart ache to see. They kind of stress me out to even look at and think about. And some of them really inspire and feel uplifting to look at, to your point about there being a whole range of emotions. And they really do capture emotions, ideas, and actions that are representations of different types or frequencies of energy. So you all know, I'm sure, everything in the universe, from the tiniest particle to a rock, from each one of us humans to the heat of the sun, it's all vibrating energy. We are ever evolving energy fields. We're made up of infinite information. And that really comes alive with the images that we've looked at here. When we zoom in on one person or maybe a group of people, that energy is kind of like a pair of glasses. So just like there's a difference between how things look with sunglasses versus reading glasses, or pink glasses versus green glasses, blurry or clear lenses, our energy acts as a lens or a filter that affects how we perceive ourselves, others, situations, and our surroundings. It affects our thoughts and emotions. It affects our actions and how we show up. And there's a model of coaching that I use that describes 7 levels of energy. But for our purposes today, we can really just break it into 2 categories. So every thought, every word that we use, every belief, every emotion is either catabolic or anabolic. And in biology, I don't know if you're familiar with these words. In biology, the word catabolic, it means breaking down. So I'm blanking on the hormone in this moment, but there are hormones and enzymes that break materials down. And anabolic is a building type of action. It builds up, it grows, and it develops. So when we take that physical concept and we apply it to this kind of more theoretical energy of our thoughts and our emotions and actions, catabolic energy is associated with stress. It comes from a place of worry, self-doubt, protection, defensiveness, maybe anger, controlling. And because of how our brains and bodies work, being in this space of stress, we kind of end up with blinders on. We get a limited view of a situation, and the benefit, catabolic energy, can actually help us get a lot done in the short term, but sustained over long periods of time, there's really a toll on us physically, mentally, and emotionally. On the other side of the spectrum, with anabolic energy, that's associated with engagement. Anabolic energy exists when our bodies are not in a stress reaction, and it allows our brains and bodies to open up with creativity, compassion, intuition, and we create a lot of success from this space. It's actually sustainable, and it builds us up. It contributes to our well-being through expression, community, caring. And so again, that catabolic energy is associated with stress, and anabolic energy is associated with engagement. But really, I mean, even those words, what really is stress and what is engagement? They're kind of difficult words to define. And we can definitely identify when we're feeling them and describe what it feels like. And we might see some physical and emotional signs that are similar across people. But in a lot of ways, they're subjective and individual and unique to each one of us. So again, it's really about the perception or the lens that we have on our situation. For both stress and engagement, there's a stimulus. So something happens. Maybe a person says something there's a change in our environment, and our response to that stimulus is stress or engagement. So to begin to define these, let's look at engagement first. When you're engaged in a task, you are attracted to it, you're pleased by it, you're emotionally involved with and excited by it, and you are in gear toward making it happen. Stress is kind of on the opposite end of the continuum, involving tension, anxiety, disappointment, and other uncomfortable emotions because of how we're thinking about the stimulus. And over time, over the course of a day, a week, as we have multiple reactions, whether they're catabolic or anabolic, and we regularly feel stress or engagement, it affects our experience of life and our success or our performance in what we're trying to do. And that shows up in our outcomes. So we are all, every single one of us, we're full of potential, and we have unique sets of gifts, unique talents. As we learn and develop and grow, our potential is expanding and changing. And that being said, having potential and fully using that potential are entirely different things. So you can kind of think of it like a gas tank. The size of your tank determines how much fuel your tank can hold, and that represents your potential. How much fuel is actually in your tank to be used at any moment is your available energy. And the amount of fuel in your tank is influenced by lots of different factors. So our goal with the rest of our time today is to understand your energy, what fuels and adds to your energy versus what depletes your fuel and zaps your energy. And then work on identifying some steps to leverage the things that influence your energy positively. You can see here on the screen what I call the energetic success formula. So your performance or your success in whatever aspect of life, be it work performance overall, maybe a presentation at work, perhaps going on a hike, or having a conversation with a partner, you have a set level of potential in any given moment. And that's, again, that size of your fuel tank. And your level of engagement and stress impacts how much of your potential you can access or how much fuel is in your tank to use. The energetic success formula is potential divided by engagement minus stress. And of course, this is a theoretical formula. There aren't real inputs to this, but conceptually, the higher your engagement and the lower your stress level, the more of your potential you can tap into, and the better you will perform at anything that you're doing. Anytime you're not performing at your potential, there's something that's detracting from or draining your energy. There's something that's bringing your engagement down. And you might be saying, that's all well and good, but I know I'm stressed. I'm on the brink of overwhelm. What do I do with this? Well, those engagement and stress factors in the denominator of this formula are likely to be from 6 specific categories that we can start to break down and look at. These 6 categories are called energy influencers. And that's where we'll really start to dig in today. Energy influencers are the things that either build up our ability to access our potential, they build our engagement, or get in the way of tapping into our potential. They add stress to our lives. When we think of that success formula, the energy influencers are boosting engagement, giving us more fuel, or making us stressed and using up our fuel. So those 6 categories of stress and engagement factors are spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social, and environmental. And we can look at these like levers that we can adjust up and down, or perhaps like ingredients for a recipe. And before we go any further, actually, I'm curious, just at first glance, we'll dig into each of these. Which of these categories do you expect contributes most to your stress levels?
I guess for me, it's emotional.
Emotional,
Yeah,
I think that's a
like
big one.
the
What's the
mood continue. Yeah. Yeah. What's the difference for the first 3 one?
We will talk about that. They do have some similarities. And I think as we dig in, what you'll find is quite often any reaction, any experience, something might be kind of a combination of multiple categories here. So it's not always a super clear bucket, but we'll start to parse that out.
I think environmental might be.
Environmental, yeah, what's around you for sure.
For me, I would say physical is the one that influences most about my energy. So when I'm kind of feeling physically strong, I feel like I have the most energy.
Yes. That's such a great point. I think that physical energy, the physical influencers are often the ones that are really noticeable for us. That's a great point. Great. Thank you guys for sharing. And it'll be interesting as we keep going. I'd love to check in at the end to find out if you feel like that proved to be true, or if potentially you discover something else that seems like it's a really big deal for you. And this is the point where I'm really going to invite some, maybe I would call it individual engagement. So we're going to go through those 6 categories next. And I want to make this meaningful. I am hopeful that you'll leave with something that can make a real difference for you. So I'd like to invite you to begin mapping out your stress and engagement factors. So earlier on, I was talking about when I worked with a coach and found such a profound impact in my life. This gains and drains exercise is the one that I mentioned that was really a Kickstarter for me to make a real difference in my experience of that stressful time at work. So if you want to participate in this, you'll want to grab either a piece of paper or pull up your favorite notes app on your phone or your computer. And for each category of energy influencers, I'll give you a 30 seconds or so to jot down what we call gains and drains. So gains are the things that boost your energy and engagement. They fill your bucket, they build you up, they make you feel good and help you be your best self. Drains are the things that drain your energy. They bring you down, they create stress for you, they make you feel bad or not good. And so again, no action needed right now. Just after each of these categories, I'll give you a minute to note those gains and drains. And in the end, you'll have a solid list to help you. Whoops, sorry, I went too far there. There we go. In the end, you'll have a solid list to help you better understand your energetic success formula. With each of the categories, I'm also going to share one of many, many tools or practices you can try to reduce stress and increase engagement in that area. And Carol has this deck, so she'll be sending it to you after the session. So you'll have a copy of all of the things that we'll be looking at on here today. Okay, so spiritual, the first lever, and one that I personally find possibly to be the most impactful. I want to clarify, first of all, when I use this word spiritual, I don't mean religion or religious, though for some people, their religion might be a spiritual influence and an important one. But I am using this term more broadly to involve your life purpose, or maybe your professional purpose, your beliefs, your values, what you desire, your goals, your gifts, and things in line with that. It's all about the degree of alignment between who you are at your core, how you do things, and what you're doing. So in the spiritual category, you'll likely be drained or experience stress when what you're doing conflicts with or causes you to question your values, purpose, goals, and beliefs. Or maybe you feel lost or directionless because you don't know what your goals or purpose are. Especially when we're coming out of college and looking at what's ahead, that can feel like a really big open question. Whether it's our day-to-day work, our career, our life decisions, a sense of purpose and acting in line with our values, having inspiring goals, having things to look forward to, these are all huge for us as human beings. And it's also about having the right mix of work and other aspects of life, like relationships, fun, financial well-being, health, etc. And a lot of my clients reach out and come to work with me because they're successful on the outside. They are hitting career milestones. They have a good salary, but they don't feel fulfilled or happy. Something is missing. They're often in their late 20s or 30s, like I said, established in their career, and realizing they don't know what they want to do when they grow up. I know that certainly was my experience. They're missing that deeper purpose in their life. And no amount of external success can fill that hole. So I've shared a bunch about what this spiritual influencer could be. I'm going to pause here for maybe 30 seconds and let you reflect on your spiritual gains and drains. So on your piece of paper or wherever you're capturing those gains and drains, jot down just some initial thoughts about what engages you and what creates stress for you in the spiritual influencer category. Okay. And if it seems like this is an area where you've got some drains and you're really looking for some gain, I encourage you as a starting place to complete a values assessment. You can go to the link on the screen here, jjbcoaching.com/values, to download my values assessment if you want to explore this. And I'll follow up after a few days with some questions to support you in expanding your awareness of your values and how they show up and what you could do with that. So that's one opportunity to go deeper. All right, mental influencers relate to your clarity as to what you're doing, your ability to remain focused without being distracted, maybe whether a task is interesting or has the right degree of challenge for you, and some of the other things that you can see here on the screen. Mental influencers start to detract from your energy when you multitask, which who doesn't multitask? When we stretch ourselves too thin, or maybe have conflicting demands, when you're distracted, or maybe when a task is boring to you or is too challenging for you right now. And this influencer is so tricky with our workplaces, with school situations, with our calendars. We are getting Teams messages and Slack messages and text messages by the minute. We're going from meeting to meeting and getting action items added on at every one. Maybe you have a load of busy work that's not challenging you or not helping you grow. Your mind is worrying about how a conversation is going to go. Those are all mental drains. Another big drain here is indecision. So let's say you have a decision to make, be it a big life decision or just how to approach something. When you don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, or just stressing about uncertainty itself, those are examples of spending your energy and adding distraction in ways that throw us off track. They're not helping us get closer to our goals. So we'll pause here for a minute again. What are the things, if you're jotting things down, what are the things that build your mental capacity? What are the things that help you be more alert, concentrate well, remember things better, access your creativity? And what are the things that you believe drain it?
It's the time to share something.
Oh, great question. At the moment, I'm just going to invite you to jot things down.
Oh,
And
okay.
at the end of this section, I will be inviting sharing. But if there are questions or whatever, if you're feeling stuck, please do pipe in and share.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what does the clarity refers to?
Clarity is when we are clear, when we know either what's ahead of us or we understand what we're supposed to be doing. Understanding a concept is clarity. Does that help?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Okay, and the action that I offer to give you a boost in the mental influencer is simply to breathe. This particular exercise that I have on the screen, again, it's so simple. It's a matter of taking a deep breath in, holding that breath for a couple of seconds, and then extending your breath out. And this particular version is impactful because breathing out for longer than we breathe in is one way we can use our body and physical cues of breathing to send a message to the brain that we are safe and secure. And when we have so much mental clutter, when we are anxious about making a decision, when we're unclear, it helps to clear out some of that mental clutter and refocus on what's at hand. And the beauty of this, of a simple breathing exercise, is that you can do it between Zoom meetings. You can do it while you're walking from one meeting room to the next. You can do it when you get up and walk to the kitchen, right? So it's something that can be done anywhere, anytime. And of course, if you want to take it further, practice centering and meditation. And the goal is really to reach a place of calm and peace internally, regardless of what's happening outside. And I see a hand raised. Please go ahead. What's up?
Yeah, I have a quick question about this kind of breathing style.
Yeah.
Is it kind of how we breathe when we are in deep sleep? Kind of something like that?
That's a good question. I don't know a lot about how we breathe when we're in deep sleep, but as a way that you can kind of experience this, if you find your pulse either on your neck or on your wrist and take a deep breath in and then breathe out, you'll notice that your heartbeat slows down when you're breathing out and it speeds up when you're breathing in. So that is why this longer exhale is signaling to our brain that we can relax, we can be calm.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. You're making me curious to understand maybe a little bit more about how this does relate to sleep cycles and breathing. That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next we have emotional influencers, which are things of or related to emotions, our moods, our feelings. The way we think about, express, and manage emotions, both in ourselves and in others, impacts our energy. And we can experience a lot of stress here. And our experience of emotions can engage or stress us out. Emotional influencers tend to detract from our energy when we feel as if our needs or expectations are not being met, or maybe when you encounter emotions in yourself or in others that you don't understand or maybe don't know how to express appropriately. And so many of us, maybe some of your family members or colleagues at work, let our emotions drive us. I know that's absolutely the case for me sometimes. We react and we let our emotions take over, and we forget that emotions' purpose, the reason they exist, is to signal to help us understand our thoughts. On the flip side, maybe we stuff our emotions down, we ignore until we have a breakdown. And I'm totally guilty of this one too. We can tend to attach ourselves to a particular outcome. And if that outcome or result doesn't come to be, we can feel such intense disappointment and anger and sadness. And just as a current example, my brother-in-law and his wife are working on buying a house. And I know this is not unique to them, but the process of making an offer, having it outbid, having to drop everything to get offers in immediately, it's such an emotional roller coaster for them because they are tying their happiness to buying a house. So if we pause here and go back to your gains and drains list, again, I just invite you to make note. I'll give you a few seconds here of what you find emotionally draining and what you find emotionally engaging or rewarding.
Yeah, can you give an example of respond instead of react?
Yes. Oh, I love that question. So when something happens, it's really easy to react. We have an automatic thought, we have an automatic emotion, and we just spit it out. Maybe something makes us angry and we yell. That's a reaction. And a reaction doesn't have a lot of thought or consciousness behind it. A response, or when we respond, there is thought and consciousness behind it. So it's maybe noticing something happens. I feel something. I notice I feel something. What is that? And what does that mean? What do I want to do with it? So it's much more intentional and much more thoughtful.
It's more rational.
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our tool for going deeper with the emotional influencer is related to emotional awareness and emotional understanding. It's a good tool if that concept of using emotions as signals is interesting to you. So the tool is called FLAGS, which stands for fear, love, anger, guilt, and sadness or grief. These are our core emotions, and some research into emotions suggests that every emotion eventually comes down to one of these. So here you can see some descriptions of how these emotions might act as signals and serve to get your attention. Fear comes up when we think we might lose something that we value. And of course, it protects you from actual physical or bodily danger, but it also protects you from perceived social dangers, which might be losing a relationship or financial instability, for example. Love is a motivator or a driver, and so much of what we do is in giving or seeking love and acceptance. Anger is similar to fear in that it's an emotion that follows a thought or belief that something important to us is threatened. So we can, when anger comes up, we can work on identifying what feels threatened. Guilt, as awful as it feels, really can help you decide who you are, because it points out where your behaviors don't align with who you want to be, or maybe who you feel you're supposed to be based on cultural expectations or your family of origin. Sadness and grief occurs when you've lost something, and perhaps it's a person through death or circumstances. Perhaps it's a loss of a hope or a dream. We can experience grief during changes as well, and sadness can show up as kind of a feeling of disappointment. So there's a whole range of these feelings as well. But the key takeaway is that all of these point to what is important to you, be it a value, a person, a belief, a desire. And so when these emotions arise, they can act as a signal to you to make a change. Also, if you're interested in this stuff, Brene Brown's new book, Atlas of the Heart, is amazing. I love it. So. All right, moving on to the physical influencer. Physical influencers are anything related to things that allow your body to move and work in the way that you'd like it to. They involve physical health, illness, your awareness of what your body is telling you, and how proactive you are in taking care of your physical self. physical influencers are draining to your energy when your body is not able to function in an optimal manner or in the manner to which you're accustomed to it operating. So all sorts of things can contribute to that, like lack of sleep, poor eating habits, illness, injury, maybe even asking your body to perform beyond what it's used to. So, for example, running a marathon when you've never run a mile before. And because it's usually visible or easily measured, our physical manifestation of energy is typically easier to detect and grasp than some of the others that we're talking about might be. For me, one of my physical drains is sugar, and I'm always hankering for a sweet treat. I love chocolate, I love ice cream, I love cookies, and at the same time, I know that sugar does not serve me. I know I feel a lot better when I reduce or cut out sugar. But when it comes to changing some of the physical behaviors and habits, it can be so hard. And so I want to share with you one tool that I have found useful in making changes. It's been especially meaningful for me in building my engagement in exercise or working out specifically, but this can really be for any task, situation, or relationship. This is the range of engagement. It taps into the power of words, our thoughts, and our values to build engagement and success and sustainable results. So from left to right, we have a range from no engagement at all, refusing to do something, to the most engaged and energizing perspective of I want to. And when we can shift from feeling like something is forced on us by someone else to feeling our own inner drive, we're more likely to do something. And when we can find that true desire, align our actions with our values, and sincerely say, I want to, then we're much more likely to start and stick with the task at hand and actually enjoy it along the way. So it becomes this self-serving cycle. I know I jumped right into the tool here. So before we move on to the next influencer, let's pause again, and I'll invite you to note the physical influencers that boost and drain your energy. Okay, we're going to talk about the social influencer next. This involves having the quote unquote right amount, the right type of interaction with others. It's all about feeling supported by those around you. And of course, again, that looks different for everyone. So social influencers detract from energy when social conditions aren't optimal for you, or maybe, and this ties in closely with that emotional one, maybe when other people's moods or styles affect your own energy. So for example, you may thrive in a culture that emphasizes individual work, but you're expected to engage in a lot of teamwork or team projects. Maybe it's vice versa for you. Either of those can be a real drain. Or let's say you're really excited about doing something, but others around you are complaining all the time. Their reactions can affect your own energy and enthusiasm. And just as an example here, early in my career, I worked for a boss who gossiped about people a lot. And at the time, part of me felt like it was good that she entrusted me with this information. I felt like I was getting the inside scoop, but it also really felt off to me. I didn't like her judgments. I didn't like how she talked down about other people. And in the end, I left that job because of that social influencer. I also understand, or I would also add, looking back, I had a values mismatch. So that's that spiritual influencer. My values of dignity, respect, lifting others up were compromised by that as well. So it's a mix. But as I share that example, as you look at what's here on the screen, what are, again, this is an invitation to jot down some notes. What are your gains and drains in the social influencer? All right. So social, and the next one that we're going to talk about, environmental, are external, whereas the first four that we talked about really are much more internal to ourselves. So because they're external, social and environmental influencers often aren't in our control, but we can learn to control the effect they have on us by selecting from one of 5 choices. So this is the 5 choices tool. We, in order from most catabolic and least empowered to most anabolic and most empowered, we can choose to remain a victim of the situation or relationship. We can leave it. We can accept it as it is. We can change it, or we can change our perspective on it. And these are all perfectly valid choices. But again, it's about that. It's about having choice of how we want to proceed. Our 6th and final influencer is environmental. So environmental influencers involve your belief that your environment, your surroundings, will allow you to complete or enjoy the task that you're about to do. And it's related, again, to the setting or the conditions in which you work and live. When you encounter an environmental factor that you think is going to prevent you from functioning in an optimal manner, your energy will be drained. And I think the pandemic has been such a perfect example of this. Environmental factors were and continue to be huge. When everyone shifted to working from home, there were a lot of pains and drains that came from that. We had multiple family members working and holding meetings and figuring out how to be together in the same space all day long. We felt stuck at home or stuck in small living spaces. We were dealing with bad lighting, uncomfortable chairs. On the plus side, wearing yoga pants or sweatpants has been a fantastic thing. And since then, with a number of false starts or partial returns to the office and all of the factors that go along with that, like space and public transportation, having noise in the office. So again, just like the social influencer, this one is more external. We generally have less control, but we do have those 5 choices. We can choose to remain a victim to what's around us. We can leave the environment, accept the surroundings, change it, or we can change our perspective of it. So when you look at the environmental influencers that are listed on the screen here, what are the things that boost your energy and what are the things that drain it?
For me, I really like sunny weather. So the like sunny weather really makes me happy, giving me high energy compared with like rainy and gravy days.
Isn't that the truth? And I'm in North Bend, so I don't know if it was different from Seattle and Bellevue, but we had some sun today. Hopefully you got that too, because I agree, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, during winter times I use like happy lights at home.
And that's what a perfect example of recognizing a drain and identifying a way you can address that with a gain. That's such a perfect illustration. And here we are, having looked at all 6 of those influencers. I do recognize the time. And so in the interest of time, I'll just ask a couple of rhetorical, reflective questions. I'm happy to stay on and answer questions and discuss this further. But some things to think about are how does what you thought would be most impactful for you compared to what you now think is most impactful? Where do you see that you experience the most drain or the most stress? And where do you see that you experience the most gain or engagement? And just to wrap up briefly, by understanding those questions, understanding these influencers and experimenting with them, you'll notice how they detract from or build your ability to perform at your potential. The idea is to really hypothesize about your energy gains or engagement factors, and hypothesize about your energy drains or stress factors, and then experiment and observe and refine to build your ability to tap into more engagement and less stress. Ultimately, doing that alone, having more gains and fewer drains, brings you closer to your potential and a true sense of fulfillment and success. So, as just a quick commitment here, I really hope, my hope is that this time makes a difference for you. I know that often a small change is all we can take on, but I also know that that can make a significant difference. So to do that, I invite you to make a commitment to making one shift or trying one experiment based on what you discovered tonight. You might think about which of those categories had the most drains, and you could try the go deeper exercise that was noted there. Or you could simply identify one significant drain and come up with a strategy or a plan to have a little bit less of that drain and a little bit more of a gain in that same category. What's really important to keep in mind is that it's all about practice. You can create strategies, plans, and interventions to bring about your ideal energetic state, but your mindset through that practice and experimentation is critical to your experience of the process. So often we take a performance mindset, and a performance mindset is all about winning. It's about getting things perfect, doing things right, and our motivation is tied to doing well. So when something doesn't go as hoped, we tend to withdraw. We think negatively about ourselves. We say, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. And a performance mindset puts our power and energy in the hands of someone or something outside of ourselves. A mastery mindset takes away the pressure of only one possible outcome and doing things right, because the focus of a mastery mindset is just about learning. Whatever happens is used as feedback and information for moving forward, and either knowing to do more of the same or to try something different. So that is the kind of key piece that I want to leave you with tonight. Brings us to the end of our time. I intended to leave 10 minutes for questions. I know we're right at the hour. My contact information and socials are here on the screen. So if any of this resonated, or if there's some piece that you want to explore a little bit or understand better, I'd love to connect. And again, at this point, I'm happy to stay on and chat a little bit more.
Yeah, we can have 10 minutes for any questions. Jen, I have a question. You have a slide listed memory on it. It's about mental or emotional, I forgot.
Yeah, mental.
What does that memory mean there?
Memory is our ability to recall or remember things. And I don't know about you, but I know the periods of my life when I have been most busy and most stressed, I notice that I start forgetting things a lot more. And it gets really frustrating when that happens. But that's what I'm referring to with regards to memory. And that's certainly a skill that we can build too. We can exercise that memory muscle.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. And if you guys don't have questions, if anybody is comfortable sharing what is one thing that you want to try, I'd love to hear that as well.
I think one thing I really like is the mastery mindset you talk about at the end, almost at the end of the speech. Yeah, I think that kind of mastery mindset is very helpful for us to avoid a lot of pressure, competition, self-doubt, something like that. I think that's really interesting. That's basically, I think that's kind of like the mindset for really to live for yourself, not for others.
Ooh, I love that way of looking at it. Yeah. And I agree. I'm obviously we zoomed through that, but what I think is so fascinating about mastery mindset is that when we can really take that on, we actually tend to perform better. And again, it comes down to these gains and drains. We're not worrying and stressing about things being perfect. And that frees up our energy for performance. And we're fully present and not distracted by these other things. So it really is a powerful shift.
Yeah. I think I have that kind of feeling too. So before, I think somebody told I'm an engineer, and somebody told me that somebody told me, do you think you are top 5 engineer, top 5% engineer, one of the top 5% engineers in the world? And I think I doubted about it. And then later I learned I don't need to be the top 5% engineers in the world. I have my own niche, right?
Yeah. That is an awesome perspective to take. And it is interesting. Our workplaces do tend to take on kind of that catabolic energy. It does tend to be about winning and losing. It tends to be about, if we don't, it's all about performance.
Mhm.
Some of the most innovative, inspiring, amazing companies are the ones who can build that mastery mindset and create safety in failure, right? It's that psychological safety. It's allowing failure and knowing that we learn from, and I say failure, what is failure if we learn from it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's such a great point. And we all come with different gifts that can complement each other. So being top 5 is a very individualistic view versus what is the sum of the parts, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great point. Good example.
Thank you.
I have one question. So like some of us sometimes compare ourselves to the others. So for example, you compare with your colleagues at the same age who make maybe who has higher level than you, or like your friends or your peers making more money than you do, get a higher salary. Like how do you think about like how do we like stop comparing ourselves to others? So this gives us some like stress in the life, right?
Absolutely. It's a prime example. And as I think about that example, I can see, I'm trying, maybe not all of the influencers, but for sure, spiritual, emotional, mental, and social influencers, I think, are in that situation. And, you know, I think there's a lot to unpack. I don't think it's a straightforward answer, to be completely honest. But my first couple of thoughts that come to mind, one of the things that I hear in that, and again, this is the reality of our situation, we tie our value and our worth to our salaries, right? So one of the things that you can start to unpack for yourself is, I am inherently worthy. I am inherently valued and good. So as a coach, that's one of the things that I might work with a client on. And that is really meaningful and really impactful. But at the end of the day, equity and fairness absolutely matter. And your career development and advancement absolutely matter if those are important to you. So from a practical standpoint, again, there's probably too much to unpack in our couple of minutes, but, you know, doing research about salaries, or potentially about what that next position is that you want to move into. Having conversations with your manager about what does it take to have your salary reassessed? What are the behind the scenes things that you need to know about? What's the process for requesting a change or having that looked at? So those are just the first couple of aspects that come to mind. But, you know, I hear that element of comparison in there as well, which is a big deal, and that social influencer.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're on time at 8:10. Thank you so much, Jen, for this whole series workshop. Yeah, I think if we need more of this, because I know you proposed 3 of this, and this is just one of the 3 workshops. And if we have any other further requests from the audience, or maybe we need some more like this, then we will have another one focus on the self-leadership. I really love that topic.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
I will share
It's
that.
been a joy. Thank you all. I look forward to connecting in other spaces, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thanks, Carol.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.